Hey there, all. We are back today to learn about drawing the portrait, maybe one of my favorite things to teach. I want to show you a few different ways of drawing the portrait. I want to look at how to articulate proportions from life, how to from a computer screen, as well as how to draw a portrait by using a grid. Okay, let me stress how important it is with portraiture to learn how proportions work. Without understanding proportions, you're essentially either copying an image, trying to see what you're doing, and it's important to know how everything breaks down into measurements, and that's going to help your portraits turn from an okay resemblance to an accurate likeness. So let's begin with how to draw someone from life. What proportional measurements do we use? We can break the face down using a series of horizontal and vertical lines. But note, these lines are just guidelines. You'll always have to continue to measure beyond these guidelines. To measure, you're going to want to use a technique that we call sighting, where you use a pencil or a charcoal or really any drawing utensil at arm's length to really measure distances and angles more accurately. Why at arm's length? Well, if you're constantly changing how far or how close you are to an object, you're going to get a different measurement every time. If you keep the same position and that same depth every time with your arm, your measurements should actually all line up very accurately. Okay, let's start with some generic measurements. So we're all just going to sit here and we're going to note that I am drawing from a mirror in life right now, and that there isn't a little box in the corner with a photo of me, because I don't exactly have software that's fancy enough to put picture-in-picture video. All right? Number 1, draw a line down the middle of the face and then one across the top of the head. Be sure to estimate the top of the head, not the hair, because these can be two vastly different measurements depending on how much hair is up there. Number 2, the bottom of the head. Again, be sure to estimate the bottom of the head if there is anything like facial hair. Number 3, between your top and bottom line, draw a line in the middle. This will represent where the eye line is, halfway down the head. Not up on the forehead. Eyes are never up there. Number 4, between either 1/3 of the way to half of the way down between your eye line and your chin line, and make sure that you measure, you will place the line for the nose. Number 5, between the nose line and the chin line, about 1/3 of the way down to about halfway down, you're going to put the line for the mouth. Number 6, typically a face will be about 5 eyes in width. You can add this now. Number 7, generally, the nostrils will line up with the inside of the eyes. You can draw 2 vertical lines down from here. Number 8, also generally, the corners of the mouth line up with the center of the pupils. And those are all the really important guidelines that can be observed, and the easiest way to accurately draw the face when someone is sitting in front of you, especially because people don't tend to love it when you draw lines all on their face. Then you can go ahead and you can fill in the facial features while continuing to measure as you go. Remember to measure twice and draw once. The next way that I'm going to show you how to draw the face is from a computer screen, kind of using this hybrid proportion line and grid situation. This is great when you don't have access to a printer or you just don't want to use paper and you have a good quality photograph. As I have a Mac, I'm going to be using Markup in Preview for this. And with a PC, I'm sure that there is a similar marking up program. You can also use a good old-fashioned printout and a marker or something of the like, and you can just write right on the paper. In this method, we will set up the facial grid work and then create a drawing from the structure. First, you'll want to draw a vertical line from the top of the head ending at the bottom of the head, where the center dot on the line meets the eye. As all faces are different, your line may not reach to the very top or very bottom of the face. That's okay. We will compensate for this later. Next, you'll draw a straight horizontal line from the left side of the face to the right, and then move it up to the middle of the vertical line that you just drew. This will, of course, be your eye line. From here, you can draw a small vertical marker on the far sides of the face, the outsides of the eyes, and the insides of the eyes. Here you'll notice if the spaces are similar, or you'll notice that some are larger and some are smaller than others, and apply that to your drawing. Next, you'll want to draw a small horizontal line under the nose to determine where the nose sits. Similarly, you'll draw a horizontal line in the middle of the mouth. Next, you'll use two vertical lines to determine the width of the nose in relation to the eyes. Start with the widest part of the nose, and then draw a line up to the eye line. Lastly, you're going to do this again with the corner of the mouth to determine its width. And it's as simple as that. Now, let's apply this to the page. The key here is to be as accurate as possible. You are just so accurate on your computer, so translate that accuracy onto the page. Take your time and you will be surprised with how accurate you can make a portrait through using this simple system of lines. This leads us to the last way that I wanted to show you how to draw a portrait, and that is using a grid. So you can either do this with a print off of your image, or you can do it right here on your computer screen. Okay, so say you want to draw this lovely little image of my nephew Owen. My image here is a 5 by 7 inch image, but say I want to copy it. Oh, and say I want to make it more complicated and make it bigger. Well, you are in luck, pals, because math is here to help you. So the easiest way to do this is to stick to an equally proportionately sized image. So if our image is 5 by 7, let's put that into a fraction. And then just go up in multiples proportionately. In this case, I have doubled my size. This can be done with any size to give you an accurate measurement that won't skew your drawing. As an aside, if you have a sheet of paper, say 22 by 30, and that is the size that you want your finished image, and the reference photo doesn't quite fit, the easiest way to adapt this is to crop the image with a corresponding size by working backwards, perhaps making your image 5.5 by 7.5 inches. Okay, yes, so we are mathing, but how do we apply this math? Let's take our 5 by 7 inch image and add a grid to it. The more lines that you add, the easier it is to be careful with the translation. I'm going to add a line every half an inch. Let's measure this out and then connect the lines. Okay, that's done. Let's get our sheet of paper ready. Like I said, I want to enlarge this image, let's say to 10 by 14 inches, so double its size. You have two options here. You can create a 10 by 14 inch rectangle on a larger sheet of paper, and then you'd have a border. But what tends to look better is just tearing down your paper to a 10 by 14 inch size. So now I want to draw the grid lines. Since I doubled the size of the drawing, I am going to double the size of the grid. My half-inch sections are now going to be 1-inch sections. So let's go ahead and grid this out. You will see that since you followed the gridding equation, you now have the perfect amount of space. Remember to draw your lines incredibly light. The last thing that you want is for all of your grid lines to show through. I suggest using an HB pencil very lightly for maximum erasability. Sometimes, especially when your grid gets larger, you may want to put numbers and letters down and across your grid just to make it a bit easier and to make it a bit more accurate to line up. Now, all you have to do is translate the image. I like to either start in the top left corner because I am right-handed, perhaps the top right corner if you are left-handed, or a subject of interest. In the case of a portrait, perhaps I want to start with the eye. Start in one box and move out to the surrounding boxes. If a section has a lot of information in it and you need to take a break further down, try adding diagonal lines or further gridding your squares on your reference and on the page. You will find accuracy in these cases a little easier this way. Once you're done sketching out and translating your image, you can then erase all of your grid information and begin to shade in your drawing. And there you have it. 3 easy ways to translate a portrait onto the page, depending on if your subject is in person, if it's on the computer, or a printed reference image. And these techniques and methods of transfer will carry on to all subject matter as well, so please feel free to adapt them into your observatory and reference drawing practice. Thanks for watching, and happy drawing!